My name is Tom Hendricks. I'm 60 years old, and I spent 27 years as a park ranger in the Tongass National Forest in southeast Alaska. I retired in 2022, earlier than I'd planned, earlier than I wanted to. I'm telling this story now because I can't stay silent anymore. Because over the course of my career, I watched more than 600 people disappear into that forest. And I helped cover up what really happened to them. The Tongass is the largest national forest in the United States. 16.7 million acres of temperate rainforest, mountains, glaciers, and coastline. It's breathtaking, remote, and more dangerous than anyone wants to admit. Since 1972, more than 600 people have disappeared in the Tongass. 600. That's not an exaggeration. That's the official number, and it only counts the reported cases. How many unreported disappearances there are, we'll never know. No other national forest in America comes close to that number. Not the Rockies, not the Sierras, not the Appalachians. The Tongass has the highest disappearance rate per capita of any wilderness area in the country. The official explanations are always the same. Dangerous terrain, brown bear attacks, hypothermia, falling, drowning, people getting lost and succumbing to the elements. And yes, those things happen. Alaska is unforgiving. The wilderness will kill you if you're unprepared or unlucky. But 600 people, over 50 years, in a forest that sees maybe 20,000 visitors annually? That's not bad luck. That's a pattern. I started noticing it early in my career. I was 24 when I joined the Forest Service in 1995, fresh out of college with a degree in environmental science. I loved the outdoors, loved Alaska, thought I'd spend my career protecting this incredible wilderness. My first missing person case was in the summer of 1996. A hiker named David Chen, 35 years old, experienced outdoorsman from California. He'd been backpacking solo, had all the right permits, all the right gear. He was due to check in at a ranger station on day 7 of his trip. Never showed up. We launched a search. Found his campsite 3 days later. It was wrong. His tent was set up properly. His food was hung correctly in a bear-proof container. His sleeping bag was laid out. His pack was organized. Everything suggested he'd made camp for the night and planned to continue hiking the next day. But David was gone. No signs of struggle, no blood, no torn fabric, no indication of a bear encounter or any other animal attack. His boots were still in the tent. His jacket was still there. He'd left behind everything except the clothes on his back. We searched for 2 weeks. Brought in helicopters, search dogs, volunteers. Covered hundreds of square miles. Never found a trace of him. The official report said he likely wandered away from camp in the night, maybe to relieve himself, got disoriented in the dark, and fell or succumbed to hypothermia. But it didn't make sense to me. David was experienced. He wouldn't wander away from camp without boots. And if he'd fallen or gotten injured, we should have found him. The search area was thorough. But my supervisor told me, sometimes people just disappear in the wilderness. It happens. Write the report, close the case, and move on. So I did. Because I was young and new, and I trusted that my superiors knew better than I did. Over the next 27 years, I worked dozens more cases just like David's, and the pattern became impossible to ignore. The disappearances clustered in specific areas, not randomly across the entire forest, but in particular zones. When I mapped them, and I did obsessively in my private notes, the clusters were obvious. They happened to solo hikers, or to people who'd separated from their groups. Always individuals who found themselves alone. Equipment was often found intact. No signs of bear attacks. Bears tear through fabric, scatter belongings, leave claw marks. These scenes were too neat, too undisturbed. Search dogs would track the missing person to a certain point, then lose the scent completely. Just gone. Like the person had vanished into thin air. And bodies were almost never recovered. Out of 600 disappearances, maybe 30 bodies were found. That's 5%. The rest just gone. Disappeared. Erased. The Forest Service explanation was always the same. The terrain is too rugged, the forest too dense, scavengers too efficient. Bodies decompose or get carried away by animals. Maybe. But 5%? For 600 people? I started talking to the local Tlingit people, the indigenous community that's lived in this region for thousands of years. They had stories, warnings. They talked about the Kushtaka, shape-shifting beings that inhabit the forest, tricksters that lure people away from safety into the deep woods where they're never seen again. I thought it was folklore, mythology, the kind of stories every culture has about the dangers of wilderness. But the elders would look at me seriously and say, "We don't go into certain areas. We don't hike alone. We respect the forest and what lives in it. You outsiders think you're safe, think you can go anywhere. You're wrong." They tell me about specific zones to avoid. And when I checked my private maps, those zones matched exactly where the disappearances clustered. Coincidence? Maybe. But it was hard to ignore. By the time I hit my 10th year as a ranger, I'd seen at least 40 disappearances. That's 4 per year. Some years more, some less. But always, the pattern continued. And I started seeing other things too. Things I couldn't explain. Footprints that were too large, breaks in trees that were too high, structures in the forest, arrangements of branches and logs that looked almost intentional. Territorial markers, maybe. I heard sounds at night that I couldn't identify. Deep vocalizations that weren't bears, weren't wolves, weren't any animal I knew. Other rangers noticed too. We'd talk about it privately, over beers after shifts. But never officially. Never in reports. Because the Forest Service had a policy. Don't speculate. Don't alarm the public. Don't create panic. Disappearances were tragic but natural. Wilderness is dangerous. That was the official line. And we were expected to maintain it. I maintained it for 27 years. Wrote reports attributing deaths to natural causes. Comforted families with explanations I didn't believe. Sent new hikers into the same zones where others had vanished, knowing something was wrong but saying nothing. I'm not proud of that. I tell myself I was following orders, that I didn't have proof, that I couldn't risk my career on suspicions and feelings. But the truth is, I was a coward. I prioritized my job over people's lives, and I'll carry that guilt forever. By 2020, I'd been doing this for 25 years. I was 56 years old, planning to work another 9 years until full retirement. I'd seen the disappearances continue, year after year. Had mapped over 500 cases. Had my own personal theory about what was happening, though I'd never voiced it to anyone. Then came summer 2022. The case that changed everything. Rachel Simmons, 28 years old, from Seattle, solo backpacker, experienced hiker with years of wilderness experience. She checked in at my ranger station on July 12th, 2022. I remember her clearly. Bright, enthusiastic, well prepared. She had the right permits, the right gear. She'd researched her route thoroughly. "How long have you been doing this?" she asked me, looking at my weathered ranger uniform. 27 years, I said. "Must be amazing, being out here every day, protecting this place." I smiled. "It has its moments." "You hiking solo?" "Yeah, I prefer it. more peaceful. Just me and nature. Make sure you check in when you finish the route. July 15th, right? Yep, 4 days. I'll be back. She wasn't. July 15th came and went. No Rachel. July 17th, we launched a search. Standard protocol. I led one of the search teams myself. 4 days into the search, we found her. She was in a ravine, 3 miles off her planned route, in an area that was dense, difficult terrain, rarely visited. Cause of death appeared to be blunt force trauma from a fall. Her neck was broken. She'd probably died quickly. But something about the scene bothered me immediately. Her body was at the bottom of a 30-foot drop, but her backpack was beside her, carefully placed, not scattered down the ravine, not torn open, not damaged. Placed. There were no signs she'd tried to catch herself during the fall, no scraped hands, no torn clothing from grabbing at rocks or branches. Just a fall, a fatal one. And her position suggested she'd been running. Her body was extended like she'd been mid-stride when she went over the edge. Running from what? We recovered her belongings: tent, sleeping bag, food, supplies, water filtration system, and her GoPro camera, still attached to the chest mount harness she'd been wearing. Standard procedure. All personal effects were cataloged, photographed, and prepared to be returned to her family. I was processing the equipment when I noticed the GoPro's indicator light. It still had battery, and there was footage on the memory card. I checked the timestamp. The camera had been recording on July 13th, the day Rachel disappeared. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my laptop and connected the camera. I should have waited. Should have processed it officially, with witnesses, following protocol. But I didn't. I watched it alone, in the ranger station, late at night. And what I saw changed everything. The footage started normally. Rachel was hiking, the camera bouncing slightly with her stride. Beautiful scenery. Dense forest, shafts of sunlight breaking through the canopy. You could hear her humming occasionally, checking her GPS, commenting to herself about landmarks. Okay, should hit the ridge in about 2 miles, making good time. She sounded happy, confident. This was someone who knew what she was doing. The first 15 minutes were completely ordinary. Just a hiker enjoying the wilderness, the kind of footage you'd expect from a solo backpacking trip. Then, at 16 minutes and 43 seconds, Rachel stopped walking. She was standing on the trail, and she'd gone completely still. The camera was pointed slightly down, at the ground, but I could hear her breathing change. Faster, shallow. Then she looked up. The camera tilted up, following her gaze. She was looking at the trees to her left. Dense canopy, maybe 40 feet up. And there, partially obscured by branches and leaves, was a figure. Dark, massive, completely motionless. At first, my brain tried to make it make sense. A bear? But bears don't sit in trees that high. And the posture was wrong. This thing was upright. Bipedal. It was gripping the branches with what looked like hands. Large hands. Its body was covered in dark hair. The head was too large, the shoulders too broad, and it was watching Rachel, staring directly down at her. I could hear Rachel's breathing on the audio, rapid, panicked. But she wasn't moving yet, just staring up at this thing. Then she whispered, so quietly I almost missed it. What the fuck is that? She stood frozen for maybe 30 seconds. The camera remained pointed at the figure in the tree. It didn't move, didn't react, just watched her. Then it shifted slightly, adjusted its grip on the branches. The movement was deliberate, controlled, not like an animal losing balance, like a person repositioning. Rachel started backing away. Slowly, the camera was still pointed up at the tree. Okay, she whispered to herself. Okay, it's okay. Just back away. Don't run. Don't run. She was following the right protocol for a bear encounter. Move away slowly. Don't trigger a chase response. but this wasn't a bear. She backed up maybe 10 steps when another sound came from behind her. Loud. Branches breaking. Something heavy moving through brush. Rachel spun around. The camera whipped around with her. And for just a second, maybe half a second, the camera caught something else. Closer, on the ground, maybe 20 yards away. Another figure. Bipedal. Massive. Dark fur. Moving between trees. Then Rachel ran. The last 4 minutes of the footage are chaos. The camera is bouncing wildly. All I could see were flashes. Trees, ground, sky. Nothing coherent. But the audio was clear. Rachel's breathing, gasping, sobbing. Pure terror. Heavy footsteps behind her. But the rhythm was wrong. Not the fast patter of a running animal. Slower, longer strides. Something with a much larger gait. Crashing through brush, branches snapping, multiple sources, multiple pursuers. Rachel was screaming, not words, just raw fear. At 3 minutes and 12 seconds, the camera fell. The image spun, then stabilized, facing up at the sky through the canopy. But the audio continued. Footsteps, getting closer, louder. Rachel's voice. Please, please, no. Then sounds I couldn't identify. Deep, resonant, vocalizations that weren't human and weren't any animal I recognized. Multiple voices, different tones, communicating with each other. It sounded like language. More footsteps, then sounds of movement. Dragging? I couldn't tell. But something was being moved. Rachel's voice one more time. Faint, pleading, then nothing. Just forest sounds. Wind, birds. Normal wilderness ambiance, 90 seconds of that. Then the battery died and the recording ended. I sat in the ranger station, staring at the blank screen, shaking. I replayed the footage, watched it again, and again. The figure in the tree was clear enough in several frames. I could make out the general shape. 8, maybe 9 feet tall, even crouched. Broad shoulders, long arms. Dark reddish-brown hair covering the entire body, visible through the leaves. The glimpse of the second figure on the ground was less clear. Just a second of footage. But the size was obvious. The bipedal posture was obvious. And the audio? Those vocalizations. The intelligence in them. The communication. Rachel had been chased. Hunted. By multiple creatures. And at the end, she'd been caught. The official cause of death was a broken neck from a fall. But this footage suggested something else entirely. She'd fallen while running. Running from something that was pursuing her. And after she fell, after the camera fell, those things had reached her. And done what? Killed her. Or found her already dead, and I didn't know. The audio didn't tell me. But I knew what this meant. This was evidence. Clear, undeniable evidence that something existed in this forest. Something large, intelligent, and dangerous. Something that had likely been responsible for dozens, maybe hundreds, of the disappearances I'd investigated over my career. I sat there until dawn, watching the footage repeatedly, trying to decide what to do. I knew what would happen if I reported this honestly. The footage would be confiscated. The case would be classified. The truth would be buried, just like it had been buried for 50 years. But if I didn't report it, if I hid evidence, that was a crime, a career-ending violation of protocol. By 6 a.m., I'd made my decision. I connected a USB drive to my laptop, copied the entire contents of the GoPro's memory card, all the footage, every frame. Then I removed the USB drive, put it in my pocket, and went to file my official report. I logged the GoPro as recovered evidence, noted that it contained footage, submitted it through proper channels. Then I waited. Within 6 hours, they arrived. Not regular Forest Service personnel, not local law enforcement, federal agents. I'd seen them before over the years, different faces, same type. They'd show up when a case was particularly unusual, when a disappearance couldn't be easily explained, when there were complications, 3 of them, plain clothes, federal credentials, but no specific agency identification, just U.S. government. They interviewed me in the ranger station, professionally, thoroughly. Ranger Hendricks, you reported finding a GoPro camera on the deceased, Rachel Simmons. Is that correct? Yes. And the camera contained footage? Yes. Time-stamped from the day she disappeared. Did you view this footage? I'd prepared for this question. Knew my answer would matter. Yes. Protocol requires logging all evidence. I needed to verify there was usable footage before reporting it. What did the footage show? The victim hiking. Then the camera appears to have fallen. Audio of her falling, then the recording ends. The lead agent stared at me. You saw nothing unusual on the footage? Nothing that would explain how she ended up 3 miles off her planned route? The video was mostly just hiking. The camera was chest-mounted, so a lot of it is just scenery. When it fell, the image became unusable. Just audio after that. And the audio? Sounds of falling, impact, then ambient forest sounds until the battery died. He didn't believe me. I could see it in his eyes. But I kept my expression neutral, maintained eye contact. We'll need to examine the footage ourselves, he said. The camera will be retained as part of the investigation. Of course. They took the GoPro, took all of Rachel's recovered equipment, spent another hour asking questions about the search, the recovery site, whether anyone else had seen the footage. I told them I was the only one who'd viewed it, which was true. Before they left, the lead agent gave me a card. No name, just a phone number. If you remember anything else about the footage, call this number. Don't discuss this case with anyone else. Understood? Understood. They left. An hour later, my supervisor called me into his office. Tom, I just got off the phone with federal authorities. The Simmons case is now under federal investigation. Our role is complete. The official cause of death is accidental fall resulting in fatal trauma. The case is closed. Closed? We haven't even completed the incident report. The report is being handled at a federal level. Our finding is accidental death. That's final. What about the family? What about... The family will be notified appropriately. Tom, I need you to understand something. This case is over. We did our job. We recovered the victim. Everything else is out of our hands. I wanted to argue, wanted to demand answers. But I'd been through this before, with other cases, other unusual circumstances. This was how it worked. The truth got buried. The official story got sanitized, and rangers like me were expected to stay quiet and move on. Understood, I said. Rachel's family was notified 2 days later. Accidental death from a fall while hiking. Her body was released. Her belongings were returned, minus the GoPro, which they were told had been damaged beyond recovery in the fall. Her father called me a week later. Ranger Hendricks, I wanted to thank you for trying to find my daughter, for bringing her home. I'm so sorry for your loss, sir. Can I ask you something? Rachel had a GoPro. She always filmed her hikes, but they said it was too damaged to recover any footage. Is that true? I hesitated. This man deserved the truth. His daughter deserved the truth. But I'd signed agreements, made commitments, and I had a copy of the footage hidden in my home. If I told him now, I'd lose any chance of ever releasing it properly. I'm sorry, I lied. The camera was damaged in the fall. No recoverable data. I see. Thank you, Ranger. He hung up, and I felt sick. I'd just lied to a grieving father. Told him his daughter's last moments were lost when I had them saved on a USB drive in my desk drawer. That night, I made another copy of the footage. Encrypted both drives. Hid one in my home safe, kept one in my car. If something happened to me, at least the evidence would exist somewhere. But I didn't know what to do with it. Releasing it would end my career. Would probably result in legal action. I'd signed non-disclosure agreements over the years. Had agreed to follow federal protocols on sensitive cases. So I waited. Carried the weight of that footage and that lie. Went to work every day and continued pretending everything was normal. but I couldn't do it much longer. By September 2022, I'd made my decision. I submitted my retirement paperwork, effective November 1st, 3 years earlier than planned, a significant financial hit. My supervisor was surprised. "Tom, are you sure? You're only 58. You've got years left." "I'm sure. I'm ready. Time to do something else." But the truth was, I couldn't keep participating in the cover-up. Couldn't keep lying to families. Couldn't keep sending hikers into that forest knowing something was hunting them. I retired, moved to Juneau, and I started planning what to do with the footage. The first few months of retirement were strange. For 27 years, I'd had a routine, a purpose, a structure to my days. Now I had nothing but time and guilt. I kept thinking about Rachel, about David Chen, my first case in 1996, about all the others in between. 600 people, 600 families who'd never gotten real answers. And I had proof. Proof that at least one of those deaths wasn't accidental. Proof that something dangerous existed in that forest. Proof that had been confiscated and buried by federal authorities. I started going through my old case files. Everything I'd kept over the years, my private notes, my maps, my observations. I'd kept copies of everything, against regulations. A personal archive of 27 years of unexplained disappearances. I started making connections I'd never made before. Or maybe I had made them, but hadn't wanted to acknowledge them. In 1998, a woman named Jennifer Krause disappeared. Her body was found 6 days later. She'd fallen from a cliff. But her camera was found with her, a disposable camera, the kind people used before digital. The film was damaged, according to the report. Exposed to elements, no usable images. But I remembered that case. The camera had been in a waterproof bag in her pack. How does film get ruined inside a waterproof container? In 2003, a young man named Marcus Webb went missing. His phone was recovered with his body. The report said the phone was water damaged, no recoverable data. But Marcus had been found in a relatively dry area, and phones in 2003 were pretty resilient. No recoverable data at all? Nothing? In 2011, a couple, Brad and Amy Norton, were backpacking together. Amy disappeared while Brad was getting water from a stream. He said she'd been right there, at their campsite, and when he came back 5 minutes later, she was gone. Massive search. Never found. Brad told me something during the search that I'd noted but never followed up on. I heard something before she disappeared, like voices, deep voices. I thought it was other hikers nearby, but I never saw anyone. In 2015, a 22-year-old woman named Chloe Martinez disappeared. Her father, the one who'd later tell me about the waterproof camera case, searched for her for weeks. Hired private search teams, never found a trace, case after case after case. Some bodies recovered, most not. But when recording devices were found, cameras, phones, anything that might have captured evidence, they were always damaged. Always no recoverable data. That wasn't accident, that was policy. I started reaching out to families, carefully, indirectly. I'd call and say I was following up on old cases, seeing if there were any new leads, offering condolences. What I really wanted to know was, had any of them been told their loved ones' recording devices were damaged? Out of 15 families I contacted, 12 had been told exactly that. Cameras damaged, phones water damaged, SD cards corrupted, no recoverable footage or data. 12 out of 15, over 20 years. Different rangers, different cases, different circumstances. But always the same result. That's not coincidence. That's systematic suppression of evidence. I started researching the federal agents who'd shown up over the years. They weren't FBI. I knew FBI agents, had worked with them on legitimate cases. These people were different. No specific agency identification, no follow-up. They'd appear, confiscate evidence, and disappear. I dug through federal budgets, organizational charts, anything public I could find. Found references to interagency wildlife incident response teams, with vague mandates and classified operations. My theory: there was a specific group, probably multi-agency, tasked with managing incidents related to unknown or dangerous wildlife. They'd been operating for decades, and their job was to suppress evidence, maintain public ignorance, and prevent panic. Why? Because if the truth came out, if people knew there were large, intelligent, potentially aggressive creatures living in national forests, the ramifications would be massive. Tourism would collapse. Lawsuits would flood in. The entire management structure of federal wilderness areas would have to change. Better to keep it quiet. Attribute deaths to natural causes. Bury the evidence. Maintain the illusion of safety. And rangers like me were expected to participate. To follow orders. To keep quiet. For 27 years, I did exactly that. By February 2023, I'd made my decision. I was going to release the footage. Rachel's footage. Let the world see what I'd seen. Let people know the truth about what was in that forest. But I had to do it carefully. Anonymously. In a way that couldn't be traced back to me. I consulted with a tech-savvy friend without telling him what I was planning. Asked general questions about anonymity online, VPNs, encrypted communications. He probably thought I was planning something illegal. He wasn't wrong. I set up multiple layers of protection. Virtual private networks, routing through multiple countries, anonymous accounts created from public Wi-Fi locations. I wasn't an expert, but I did enough to make tracking difficult. On March 15th, 2023, I uploaded the footage. I posted it to 5 different forums dedicated to unexplained phenomena, missing persons cases, and wilderness survival. I included a caption: Tongass National Forest, July 2022. Recovered from GoPro camera of deceased hiker Rachel Simmons. Official cause of death: accidental fall. The Forest Service claimed the camera was damaged and contained no footage. This is what they didn't want you to see. 600 plus people have disappeared in this forest since 1972. This might show why. Then I waited. The response was almost immediate. Within 24 hours, the footage had been viewed thousands of times. Within 48 hours, tens of thousands. Within a week, millions. It spread across every platform. YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, TikTok. Everyone was sharing it, analyzing it, debating it. The reactions were predictable. Half the internet called it fake. Obvious CGI? Man in a suit. Viral marketing stunt. The other half was convinced it was real. This is proof. Look at the movement. The Forest Service is covering this up. Video analysis experts weighed in. Some said it was genuine, showed no signs of digital manipulation. Others claimed any sufficiently skilled editor could fake it. The Forest Service released a statement within 3 days. I watched it online, from my apartment in Juneau, my heart pounding. We are aware of manipulated footage circulating online that allegedly depicts events in Tongass National Forest. This video is not authentic and does not represent real events. The footage was not recovered from any Forest Service investigation and appears to be a hoax designed to spread misinformation. We urge the public to be skeptical of unverified content online. They were lying. Directly, boldly lying. But what else could they say? Yes, there are unknown creatures in the forest that have been killing people for 50 years, and we've been covering it up. Media outlets picked up the story. Viral Bigfoot video, real or elaborate hoax. Cable news ran segments. Cryptozoology researchers appeared on talk shows. But without verification, without the original camera, without official confirmation, it remained unverifiable. Just another piece of internet mystery content. Then Rachel's family saw it. 4 days after I posted the footage, Rachel's father, James Simmons, recognized his daughter's voice. He'd been sent the clip by friends who knew about Rachel's death, asking if it could possibly be her. He went to the media. That's my daughter. That's Rachel's voice. The Forest Service told us her camera was destroyed. They told us there was no footage. But this is her. Why did they lie to us? The story exploded. Now it wasn't just internet speculation. It was a grieving father demanding answers about his daughter's death. The Forest Service refused to comment. Federal authorities released a statement saying the video was not from any official investigation and declined further discussion. Rachel's family hired a lawyer, demanded the original camera, demanded the full investigation file, demanded answers. The response was bureaucratic stonewalling. The case is closed. The findings are final. We cannot comment on ongoing legal matters. But there were no ongoing legal matters. The case was closed. They just didn't want to talk about it. By April 2023, the footage had been viewed over 50 million times. It had become one of the most debated pieces of cryptozoology evidence in decades. Forensic analysts at major universities examined it. Most concluded, if it's fake, it's extraordinarily well done. The lighting is consistent with the location and time of day. The audio is clean, no signs of editing or manipulation. The camera movement is consistent with a chest-mounted GoPro in a panic situation. If this is a hoax, one expert said on a podcast, someone spent an enormous amount of money and expertise creating it. The creature in the tree, the movement patterns, the vocalizations in the audio, everything is consistent with what we'd expect from an unknown large primate. I can't definitively say it's real, but I also can't explain how it would be faked. The Tlingit community in southeast Alaska spoke publicly about it. Elders appeared on local news. We have been warning outsiders for generations, one elder said. The Kushtaka are real. They inhabit the deep forest. They are territorial and dangerous. This video shows what we've always known. The forest is not empty, and not everything in it is friendly to humans. Scientists dismissed the indigenous accounts as folklore. Cultural beliefs don't constitute evidence, one biologist said. But the Tlingit had been right about many things that science later confirmed. Their ecological knowledge was profound. Maybe their knowledge of the forest's inhabitants was equally valid. The impact on tourism was immediate. Hiking permit applications for Tongass dropped by 60% in the summer of 2023. Some trails were temporarily closed for safety assessments. Park rangers reported hikers were nervous, jumpy, many cutting trips short. Cryptozoology researchers flooded the area. Equipped with cameras, drones, night vision equipment, they searched for evidence of Sasquatch. Most found nothing. A few claimed to have had experiences, sounds, glimpses, signs of something large moving through the forest. I watched all of this from a distance. Anonymous, protected, guilty. Because while the world debated whether the footage was real, I knew it was. I'd held that camera. I'd found Rachel's body. I'd watched that footage on official Forest Service equipment. And I'd lied about it. To federal agents, to Rachel's father, to everyone. I'd finally released the truth, but too late. And anonymously, like a coward. Rachel's family never got justice, never got real answers. The most they got was a viral video that half the world dismissed as fake. In June 2023, I did something risky. I called James Simmons, Rachel's father. Mr. Simmons, my name is Tom Hendricks. I was the lead ranger on your daughter's case. Silence on the phone. Then, you told me her camera was destroyed. I know, I lied. I'm sorry. Why are you calling me now? Because you deserve the truth. That footage online, it's real. It came from Rachel's GoPro. I watched it the night we recovered her body. Federal agents confiscated the camera the next day and told me the case was closed. I'm the one who leaked it. I couldn't keep quiet anymore. More silence. I could hear him breathing. When he spoke again, his voice was shaking. So, my daughter was chased by... What? What are those things? I don't know. I spent 27 years in that forest. I saw signs, heard sounds, investigated 600 disappearances. But I never saw them directly till I watched Rachel's footage. Why didn't you come forward? Why didn't you tell us? Because I was a coward. Because I valued my pension and my career over the truth. Because I convinced myself I was following orders and that made it okay. But it wasn't okay. None of it was okay. And I'm sorry. James Simmons cried on the phone. I listened. Didn't try to comfort him or excuse myself. Just listened. Finally, he said, "At least we know. It doesn't bring her back. But at least we're not wondering anymore. Thank you for that. Even if it's too late." He hung up. I sat in my apartment and cried for the first time since I was a child. Cried for Rachel. For all the others. For the truth I'd helped bury. For the 27 years I'd been complicit. It's been almost 2 years since I released that footage. 2 years since the world saw what I'd been hiding. 2 years of living with the consequences. I'm speaking publicly now, for the first time, using my real name. Because silence doesn't protect anyone anymore. The truth is out there, viral and debated, and I need to take responsibility for my part in how it came to light. My name is Tom Hendricks. I was a park ranger in Tongass National Forest for 27 years, and I was the one who leaked Rachel Simmons' GoPro footage in March 2023. The Forest Service figured it out eventually. Not immediately. My digital precautions held up for a while. But they investigated internally, narrowed down who had access to the evidence, and I was one of 3 rangers who'd viewed the footage. I received a letter in August 2023. Legal threats, violation of federal regulations, breach of confidentiality agreements, potential criminal charges for mishandling evidence and obstruction of a federal investigation. But they never followed through. Probably because prosecuting me would draw more attention to the footage, force them to confirm its authenticity, open them up to questions they couldn't answer. So they settled for a different punishment. My pension was revoked. 27 years of service, and they took it all. Said I'd violated the terms of my employment in a manner that nullified my benefits. I'm 60 years old with no pension, no career, and a reputation as either a whistleblower or a conspiracy theorist, depending on who you ask. But I'd do it again. Because Rachel deserved the truth. Her family deserved the truth. And all those other families, 600 of them, deserve to know what really happened to their loved ones. The footage is still online, still debated, still analyzed. Some platforms took it down, citing unverified content or graphic material. But it keeps getting re-uploaded. You can't suppress information once it's out there. The official position hasn't changed. The Forest Service maintains that the video is a hoax, that Rachel Simmons died from an accidental fall, that there are no unknown creatures in Tongass National Forest. But people know better now, or at least they suspect. After I went public with my identity, other rangers started coming forward, quietly, anonymously mostly, sending me emails, messages, sharing their own experiences. A ranger from Olympic National Park. I found a campsite in 2018. 2 hikers missing. Their tent was shredded, but not by any animal I recognized. The tears were too clean, too deliberate. We were told to classify it as a bear attack. But I've seen bear attacks. This wasn't that. A ranger from 6 Rivers National Forest in California. I've heard them, at night. Vocalizations that don't match any known species. We're told to log them as unidentified wildlife and move on. But there are dozens of reports. Hundreds going back decades. A retired ranger from Mount Hood National Forest. I saw one. In 1989, I was on patrol and it crossed the trail 50 yards ahead of me. 9 feet tall, maybe more. Dark hair covering its entire body. It looked at me, just for a second, then disappeared into the forest. I reported it. My supervisor told me I'd misidentified a bear and to never mention it again. I didn't. But I know what I saw. The pattern isn't just Tongass. It's everywhere. Every major forest system in the Pacific Northwest, the Rockies, the Appalachians. Disappearances that don't make sense. Evidence that gets suppressed. Rangers who are told to stay quiet or lose their jobs. This has been going on for decades, maybe longer. An institutional cover-up spanning multiple agencies, protecting something the public isn't supposed to know about. Why? I've thought about this constantly. Why hide it? Why not just admit these creatures exist and manage the situation openly? The answer is complicated. Part of it is financial. Wilderness tourism is a multi-billion-dollar industry. If people knew there were dangerous, intelligent creatures in national forests, many would stop visiting. The economic impact would be enormous. Part of it is legal liability. If the Forest Service admits they've known about these creatures for decades and said nothing, they're liable for every death, every disappearance. 600 lawsuits in Tongass alone, plus thousands more across other forests. Part of it is scientific embarrassment. How do you explain that a large primate species has existed in North America for centuries without being officially documented? It challenges everything we think we know about wildlife, evolution, species distribution. And part of it is control. Once you admit you don't fully understand or control the wilderness, you lose authority. You lose the ability to tell people, follow these rules and you'll be safe. Because the truth is more complicated. Follow these rules and you'll probably be safe. Unless you encounter something we don't officially acknowledge exists. But the real reason, I think, is simpler. They don't know what to do. They don't know what these creatures are, how many there are, how to manage them. So they've chosen denial. Chosen to treat every incident as isolated, natural, explainable by conventional means. It's been working for 50 years. Why change now? After the footage went viral, researchers started looking more carefully at historical data, analyzing disappearance patterns, clustering, timing. What they found was disturbing. The disappearances in Tongass, and in other forests with similar patterns, cluster in specific areas and follow predictable patterns. They increase during certain months. They target specific demographics. Solo hikers, people who separate from groups, individuals in remote areas. That's not random. That's hunting behavior, territorial behavior, intelligent predation. Dr. Sarah Reeves, an anthropologist from UC Berkeley, published a paper in late 2023 analyzing the patterns. Her conclusion: the evidence suggests the presence of a large, intelligent, territorial species that views human presence in certain areas as intrusion. The behavior is consistent with great apes defending territory, but scaled to a much larger size and range. Her paper was published in a fringe journal and dismissed by mainstream science. But she'd connected the dots. 600 disappearances in Tongass, 800 in Olympic National Park, 500 in Mount Hood National Forest, thousands across the Pacific Northwest and beyond, all following the same pattern, all officially attributed to natural causes, all suppressed. The Tlingit elders I'd spoken with over the years reached out to me after I went public. They weren't surprised. They'd been telling these stories for generations. We tried to warn your people, one elder told me, but you thought we were primitive, superstitious. You didn't listen, and people died because of that arrogance. He was right. Indigenous communities had knowledge that could have saved lives, but it was dismissed as folklore. Now finally, some people were starting to listen. I've been back to Tongass once since I released the footage. Not as a ranger. I'm banned from federal employment for life. But as a civilian, a hiker, I went to the area where we found Rachel, 3 miles off her planned route in that dense section where she'd fallen, or been chased until she fell. I left flowers, said a prayer, though I'm not religious, apologized for not protecting her, for lying to her father, for taking so long to tell the truth. And I felt watched. That sensation you get when something is observing you. I scanned the trees, the ridgeline, the shadows, saw nothing. But the feeling didn't go away. Maybe it was paranoia. Maybe it was guilt manifesting a sensation. Or maybe something was up there in those trees, watching me the way it had watched Rachel. I didn't stay long. The impact of the footage has been mixed. Some good, some bad, most complicated. Good. People are more cautious now. Solo hiking in remote areas is down significantly. Groups stay together more carefully. Rangers report that hikers take warnings more seriously. Bad. Thrill seekers and cryptozoology hunters have flooded the forests. People actively searching for these creatures, hoping to capture evidence, get famous, prove they exist. Several have disappeared. The Forest Service has closed some areas entirely. Complicated. The debate continues. Is the footage real? Are these creatures dangerous? Should we be protecting them or eliminating them? Every opinion you can imagine exists online. I've given a few interviews, mostly to podcasts and alternative media. Mainstream outlets won't touch it. I tell my story. 27 years as a ranger, 600 disappearances, the systematic cover-up, Rachel's footage. Some people believe me, call me a hero for whistleblowing. Others think I'm a fraud, a conspiracy theorist, someone who faked footage for attention. I don't care about my reputation anymore. I care about the truth. And the truth is this. There are things in our forests that we don't understand. Large, intelligent, territorial creatures that have learned to avoid us most of the time. But when we intrude too far into their territory, when we hike alone in remote areas, when we camp in the wrong places, sometimes they don't avoid us. Sometimes they hunt us. I don't know if they kill people intentionally or if most deaths are accidents during territorial confrontation. Rachel's footage doesn't show her actual death, just the chase. Maybe she fell while running. Maybe they pushed her. I'll never know. But I know they're real. I know they've been taking people for decades. And I know the authorities have been covering it up because they don't know what else to do. My warning to anyone who hikes in remote wilderness: understand the risk. Not just bears and weather and getting lost. There's something else out there. Something that watches from the trees. Something that most people never see, but some people encounter. And some of those people don't come home. Rachel saw it. She filmed it. She ran. She died. 600 others in Tongass. Thousands more across other forests. Most without the evidence Rachel left behind. Most just gone. Vanished. Their families told it was an accident, natural causes, bad luck. It wasn't bad luck. It was predation, territorial behavior, intelligence we don't want to acknowledge. I spent 27 years participating in the lie, following orders, keeping quiet. And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. But I'm not quiet anymore. I'm telling the truth. Even if it costs me everything, my pension, my reputation, my peace of mind. I'm telling the truth. Because Rachel deserves that. Her family deserves that. All 600 families in Tongass deserve that. All the other families in every other forest deserve that. The watchers are real. They're in the trees, in the shadows, in the places we think are safe because we've been told they're safe. But they're not safe. They never were. We just didn't want to admit it. My name is Tom Hendricks. I was a park ranger for 27 years. I helped cover up the truth about what's really in our national forests. And now I'm trying to make it right by telling you. Be careful out there. Very careful. Because you're not alone in those woods. And not everything watching you is friendly. Rachel Simmons was 28 years old. She loved hiking. She was experienced, prepared, cautious. And something chased her until she fell to her death. That could happen to you. To anyone. In any remote forest, at any time. The only difference now is that you've been warned. You know the risk exists. You can't say you didn't know. So if you go into the wilderness, especially alone, especially in remote areas, understand what you're doing. You're entering territory that doesn't belong to you. Territory that's protected by things we don't understand. Most of the time, you'll be fine. Most hikers never encounter anything unusual. The creatures are rare, elusive, and generally avoid humans. But sometimes, in specific areas, under certain conditions, you might see something. In the trees, watching, waiting. If that happens, I don't know what to tell you. Rachel ran. It didn't save her. Maybe don't run. Maybe stay calm. Maybe back away slowly, maybe pray. I don't have answers. Just warnings. Just the truth I should have told 27 years ago. The Watchers are real. They've always been real. We just didn't want you to know. Now you do. What you do with that knowledge is up to you.